Everyone, my name is Donnie Lowy from Closeout.com. I hope you're having a great day. So one of the questions that I get asked often is, how do middlemen in the wholesale business make money? So it's definitely a good question. And the way that it basically works is, a middleman, even before I tell you how they make their money, they have to be able to provide an actual service. So there's a reason, there's a value to what they're doing and why people will want to pay them. And middlemen do that. So let me first tell you what the service that they provide is. They provide the ability for someone to buy items that they otherwise, number one, might not be able to find. Number two, they would have to buy in a much larger quantity. The middleman allows them to buy it in smaller quantities. And number three, the middleman might have terms that are easier for them to work with than if they had to deal with directly with the source. For example, let's say I buy overstock from a department store. So in that situation, I'm acting as a middleman, as a wholesale middleman supplier to my customers, because there's still one step between me and the department store. So why doesn't a customer go directly to the department store? Well, they might not be ready to buy the large quantity that would be necessary. They might not want to be able, or they might not want to have to buy 5,000 dresses. They might not be able to buy at the time 5,000 dresses. Another reason is, let's say when I buy clothing from a department store, it's assorted. They don't want to have to get a large lot of assorted clothing. They rather pay a little more, but be able to make their own selection. So let's say I get a shipment of overstock from a department store, and it has dresses, women's suits, blouses, pants, skirts, and some accessories. So one store might only want the dresses, another store might only want the women's suits, another store might only want pants, another store only want skirts, another store might only want accessories. But if any of those stores were to buy directly from the department store, they would get that overstock, they would get a lot of merchandise, which now they couldn't sell. So it makes sense for them to pay a drop more. They don't want to pay that much more, right? They'll pay a drop more, but they'll get exactly what they need. Now, another thing is the convenience. A department store might not have the ability, or they might not be set up to ship an order internationally. As a wholesaler that exports merchandise, I'll know how to ship internationally, and I'll know which shipper to use, how to get them the best rates, which is the most reliable shipper, and so on. So now, in more general terms, what a middleman does is provide a service in the marketplace, and he or she will mark up their price according to the demand, and also according to what they need to cover their costs, and so they can make a profit. So, for example, let's say I would know of a great source for wholesale watches, and I had a customer who wanted to buy wholesale watches, and the watches would cost me $20. And the customer could sell those watches for $100. And the customer really wants those watches. So if those watches cost me $20, I might sell it to the customer for $25. But let's say there's a lot of competition. There are a lot of people selling watches. So I might only mark it up by $1. I might only sell them for $21. Now, I personally don't deal with watches, but I'm using that as an example. But the key is that a middleman sure wants to make as much money as possible, but it's based on the demand, based on the competition, based on his costs. Now, if you're going to deal with a wholesale middleman, then deal with a wholesale middleman whose costs are very low. And really the way that I'm describing it, I guess everyone is always a middleman because the department store is buying their merchandise from the brands, and the brands are getting their merchandise manufactured by a factory, and the factory is buying the materials from another factory, and so on. So you always want to deal as close as possible to the source. So, for instance, I might sell my wholesale merchandise to a middleman who will then distribute the merchandise locally, or might take the merchandise to another country, and then that middleman will supply the merchandise to boutiques. But if those boutiques know about my website, then it makes sense for them to buy directly from it. This way they don't have to, so to speak, go through that middleman who's going to add an extra cost to the merchandise. All right, my website is Closeout.com. You're welcome to come visit my warehouse. I'll be very happy to meet you. Thank you and have a great day.